Central banks provided liquidity for commercial banks during the financial crisis. The ECB saved the euro in the sovereign debt crisis, and central banks are doing again now with COVID. But will they be able to save us in our future climate crisis? The aim of this poster is to answer this question using the Caroline and Soskice model presented in the macroeconomics module. For that, first, I look at the main issue, which is the mandate of the central banks, which limits the scope of monetary policy in only inflation targeting, financial stability, and for some central banks, growth and employment targets. I then analyze the effects and consequences of climate change. I know that there can be stagflationary effects in the economy. Stagflation can happen because of two things: because of negative shocks in demand, which are produced by climate and weather disruptions, uncertainty, which produce a decrease in autonomous investment and consumption, and of course negative supply shocks, which are a result from a decrease in productivity. These result in higher inflation and higher unemployment, a situation similar to the ones that we faced in the oil shocks in the 1970s. The other thing I look at is how climate change can affect financial stability. Both transition risks, those related to climate policy and changes in consumer behavior because of climate change, and also physical risks, so weather and climate disruptions, create higher risk in operations and in financial markets. This could be translated into higher interest rates and tighter financial conditions. So as we have seen, mostly all of the targets or mandates of central banks are affected in one way or the other by climate change. So how can central banks act? The solution resides in green quantitative easing. These are selective investments on green financial products when doing open market operations, so that there is no pollutant firms or pollutant operations getting funds from central banks' quantitative easing. Policies similar to this are already being consideration in several central banks like the European Central Bank. But the debate is still ongoing on the possibility of doing biased investments on quantitative easing, which should be a non-politicized investment. Draghi said once that the ECB was ready to do whatever it takes to save the euro. The question right now is, are central banks ready to do whatever it takes to save the planet?